Welcome to the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.
Welcome to the Joint Veterans Endorsement Interview for non-judicial candidates. My name is Bill Carnes. I am here on behalf of Nevada Veterans Association. I will be your moderator today. At the outset, we'd like to formally recognize and thank our sponsoring organizations for making today's event possible. Mary Perry, Clark County District Court Family Division, Department P, as in Perry, Veterans in Politics International, and Nevada Veterans Association. We also extend our sincere appreciation to our additional sponsors and community partners whose support helps ensure a professional, fair, and transparent endorsement process. We're honored to have all of you with us today. Before we begin the interviews, let's review the rules and the format. First, panel members will introduce themselves by stating their names and the organization they represent. Next, each candidate will introduce themselves. Please include the office you're running for and a very short explanation as to why you're seeking that position. We'll then proceed to the interview portion. Please remember, this is an interview and not a debate, so candidates may not ask questions of each other. All responses must be directed to the panel. In the interest of fairness to all participants, time limits will be strictly enforced. Each candidate will start off having 90 seconds to answer each question. At some point in time, we may go to a lightning round in the interest of time and shorten that to 60 seconds or whatever I decide, probably 60 seconds. When you have 30 seconds remaining, I will try to give you some sort of a hand signal. And when your time has expired, you're going to hear this sound. That means finish the sentence that you're on, please, and then wrap it up. So we can move on, because we do have a finite period of time. After all panel members have completed their questions, each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. That's where you convince us why you should be running for your position. At the conclusion of today's interview, we'll once again thank all of our sponsors. We'll get into that later. For now, we will start on this end with introductions.
Good morning, panel. My name is Nathan Atkins, Army combat veteran, and I'm here in support of Nevada Veterans Association.
My name is Bill Carnes, and I am here also on behalf of Nevada Veterans Association.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics.
Devin Douglas, Veterans in Politics.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics.
All right, so I'd like to start, is it Nagy?
That's correct.
Okay, so Dr. Nagy.
My mistake. It's now your turn to introduce yourselves, please. Yeah, my mistake. Carry on. Let us know who you are, please.
I'm Dr. Aury Nagy. I'm a neurosurgeon here in Las Vegas. I'm running for the Republican nomination for Nevada's 3rd Congressional District to run for Congress to replace Susie Lee.
I'm Jon Kamerath, and I'm from the Independent American Party and running for Congress District 3. We had our state convention already, which is where we hold our primary elections, and the delegates asked me to run. And because of the situation that our country's in, I decided that I would run. So I'm very concerned about the direction we're going in. I'm actually a retired nurse. You can look me up on the State Board of Nursing website, and it probably says my license is inactive now, but I could just retire and live a nice, happy, easy life with my wife. But I'm going to go ahead and run for Congress.
Good morning. My name is Terrill Robinson. I am running for Congress in District 3 as a Democrat to replace Susie Lee. I am a Marine Corps veteran, and that is the sum of it.
Dr. Nagy, what is your political affiliation?
Republican.
So I have a Republican, Independent American, Democrat, correct? Great. All right, let's carry on.
All right, so Dr. Nagy, Nathan Atkins with the Nevada Veterans Association. My question for you is simply this. I'm sure as a surgeon you've seen patient dumping, right? and Medicare fraud, or Medicaid fraud, I should say. What specific federal audit mechanism would you introduce to catch bad actors in the medical system without increasing the cost of care?
I was happy to see the work that Elon Musk had done on Doge and collating all of the spending so that we could first see where the money was going. In terms of introducing an audit mechanism to oversee whether or not that money has been misspent would require a daunting review of all of the medical records in the country. That kind of activity is currently being done at the state level as people are auditing their Medicaid expenditures. It's being done by insurance companies throughout the country as they try to prevent unnecessary expenditures. But the tremendous amount of fraud that we see most of in Medicare is at the federal level, and that would require a more careful analysis in Medicare to make sure that to collaborate with local authorities in the state to follow up on reporting of fraud, as we see it, as Dr. Oz is doing right now as he travels around the country hunting for episodes of fraud. So it appears that would fall under the Department of Health and Human Services auspices.
Well, I think Dr. Nagy has well explained good solutions to the concern, right? At my hospital, we did have patient dumping happening. I was at UMC, right? So that's the county hospital. And I remember administration talking about that. Of course, I'm far down the management line, but oversight needs to be established, I think, locally, not just the state, but the county as well, is trying to police that. And it's a problem at the Medicare level, at the federal level regarding Medicare as well. And so I think the feds, and I think that what Elon was trying to do, who is quite a titan, the captain of industry, and so he's probably very skilled at those kinds of things, and hopefully that whatever remains of Doge is still capable to maximize efficiency regarding the concerns.
Well, my answer is going to be very short because I am not in the medical field and I am not too familiar with this topic. I will say with any case of fraud, we do need oversight. We do need funding. We do need people to staff these things. So when we're talking about Doge, I think that, again, there's some government spending that is absolutely necessary. And with that, we need to, look more into how we can more focus what certain departments are doing, but they're going to need funding. So that's what needs to happen, if we're being completely honest.
Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. I have a question which should have a very short answer, and then there will be a second follow-up question to it, which should also be a rather short answer. So we'll start down here with you, Terrill. Terrill, correct? It would be, let's see, what section of the Constitution defines the creation and authority of the legislative branch?
I don't know the specific article.
Okay. John.
Well, that's Article 1, and there are 10 sections in Article 1. Mm-hmm. That's the legislative branch. Okay. It's the longest in the whole Constitution.
Doctor?
Yeah, that is Article 1.
Okay. What form of government do we have, and where is it outlined in the Constitution? We'll start with you, Doctor.
We're a constitutional republic, and I believe that is also in Article 1.
Right. So in Article 1, it outlines the legislative branch's powers and responsibilities. And in 2 talks about the executive branch, 3 talks about the courts, right? So there's 4 more articles, but that's what Article 1, 2, and 3 are about. Mm-hmm.
So let me ask the question again. What form of government do we have, and where is it outlined in the Constitution?
Right. Okay. So it's a republic, right? It's a constitutional republic. And that's another reason why I'm running, because I think our republic is in bad shape. And so that I just point out that 1 talks about the legislative branch, 2, the executive, and 3, the courts, and 4, the states.
Okay. Terrill?
Yes, we are a constitutional republic, and it's in Article 1.
Okay. It's actually Article 4, Section 4, just so you know, and it's a very short sentence. And I will finish up by saying this. The Constitution was written on 4 sheets of paper. The Bill of Rights is a 5th sheet of paper, and then the amendments would take up 2 to 3 more. It doesn't take all that long to read, and you could probably listen to it on your way home today. So I would challenge all of you to make that at least a weekly listen as you're running for Congress, and there's a lot of great information in there. So there you go. I'll turn it over.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics. What are your top 3 legislative priorities if elected, and how will you realistically achieve them? Jon.
Yeah, my number 1 is the national debt, right? So we just crossed 39 trillion. And I remember when we hit 1 trillion, I was in high school, and that was momentous. That was actually scary. I remember teachers in school talking about how we should never have crossed that mark. And here we are years later. Well, the purchasing power is less than 4 to 1 from that time, right? But the debt is 39 times higher than it was at that time. So I hear people say, well, it's debt to GDP. That's what really matters. We're at 120%. I think I'm rounding down, right? 25 years ago was the last time we actually balanced the national budget. So are we going to only do it every 25 years? We spend more money than we bring in, whether we're in a good economy or a bad economy. So what I'm going to do about that is vote no on every single budget bill that doesn't have us in the black. We're always in the red. So that's number 1 by far, right? Immigration is a very important issue. It's 2 parts, right? It's the border and the people who have come in illegally. And I think President Trump has done a good job at handling the border part of that. And so we need to make sure that the other part is taken care of in a proper and legal way. And number 3, I worry about, of course, civil rights, right? The Declaration of Independence defines specific rights that we have. And it says that the only reason we even have government is to protect our civil rights.
As a reminder, please keep the microphones nice and close. Thanks.
I want to fix healthcare in America. I think we can reduce the amount of money spent on healthcare by between $1 and $3 trillion, and we can improve the quality of healthcare. We can return the control of healthcare to the states, where there's more oversight. We can create insurance structures that create CEOs who are responsive to the patients they're taking care of and accountable to them, and that should solve a lot of the problems. So, if we go back to that. Organizational structure like we had in the 1980s. We had the best healthcare in the world, and it cost less than half of what it costs us now. I think it can save our country a tremendous amount of money. More people will feel like they have more money in their pockets. That will have more money in banks. They'll have lower interest rates for business loans and for construction costs. It'll be like the economy's running on jet fuel. So I think that's the primary focus of running. We've got about 2 years when we're in Congress, and I think if I get that done, that's a tremendous amount. Also, safe and secure borders are obviously very important to everybody. I think what the work the president has done on fighting fentanyl imported to our country is tremendous, and I'm grateful for it, and I'd like to support that.
My top 3 things are healthcare, affordability, and wages. These gentlemen have spoke in depth about healthcare, so I'll speak to affordability. We're seeing it at the pump. We're seeing it in the grocery stores. We're seeing it all across everything that we are involved in. We have the highest rates of auto insurance in the nation, and so a lot of people are feeling a crunch, and that kind of ties into wages. Everything around us is going up except for our wages. So, my goal will be to diversify our economy. We're relying a lot on the casinos, and we have seen, through COVID that they're not going to be a means to sustain our growth. So we need to, look more into mining. We're very mineral rich, and we need to look into different types of energy and production because, again, we have a lot of open land, and we can definitely be a source of energy for the nation. So those are my top 3.
Devin Douglas, Veterans in Politics. Thank you guys for coming. We can start over here on the right with Dr. Nagy. So current incumbent Rep. Susie Lee began 2026 with roughly 2.35 million in cash on hand, one of the strongest positions among Nevada incumbents. Can you tell us how much you've raised so far, and also specify whether that's self-funded or individual donors or a mix of both? And if there is a large gap between what she has on hand, what's your plan to close or exceed that gap by the primary and general election?
So I raised about $1.1 million. I put about $1 million in myself. I raised from some family and friends, but I haven't really gone out asking a lot from the public at this point. I did go to this morning. I just returned from the Conservative Political Action Committee in Dallas, where I was talking to people all over the country about our race. I heard that we had some positive response from Mike Johnson's team in Washington. I've been to Washington twice to talk to congressmen and lobbyists over there about the issues that are important in Nevada, and trying to ally us with the people who also value the things that are important here in Nevada. And so should I pass the primary, I anticipate I'll get a lot of support because I've been here in Las Vegas a very long time, and I know a lot of folks I think we can win.
Thanks for that question. I'm not from a major political party, right? So we don't have the resources money-wise that the major parties do. And in that sense, what I think is that at some point in time, the people themselves are going to say, why don't we give someone else a chance, especially people who are talking about preventing the bankruptcy of this country, right? I don't have a lot of cash on hand, but what I'm very worried about is our country being at a negative 39 trillion. And that's just the actual debt. The unfunded liabilities is more than double that. I do have some people already willing to volunteer for me, right? So they're going to help me regarding a Facebook page and making videos and things like that. So I hope to be able to create outreach using modern means that will make up for not having the kind of money resources that the major parties do.
My campaign is completely grassroots. So I've raised about $35,000. 30 of that was from my own funds. I am obviously asking for donations, but I'm not really hammering it out. It's not easy to ask your friends for money. As far as closing the gap, I think the fact that she's had to raise that much is a good indication of how vulnerable she is as the incumbent. And as these two gentlemen have said, it's not easy to get the support from the party, especially when you're primarying someone of the party. So when it comes to bridging the gap, that's a very large gap, and I'm not sure I'll be able to bridge. But again, the goal is, like this gentleman just said, the people are getting tired of money and politics. It's a major cause of concern. There are a lot of conflicts of interest with this money that our current elected officials have and are receiving. So hopefully, again, the people are awake enough to notice these grassroots campaigns.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. Thank you all for being here. I greatly appreciate it. My question is going to be pretty simple, but at the same time, it's something to think about. So it's, how do you work with people you fundamentally disagree with? Terrill, I'll start with you first.
I deal with people that I fundamentally disagree with by understanding everything is about compromise. We're not going to agree on everything all the time. And having an understanding of the fact that I don't know everything about everything is how I approach all these situations. So any interaction, to me, I try to keep the tone very light. I've gone to a few veteran events, and a lot of our veterans lean more Republican. But at the end of the day, we all have the same wants, and that is to live the American dream. So that's to, be able to have a business, raise our families, work, but not kill ourselves at work. So when we're able to find that common ground, we're able to have an actual conversation. Guards tend to drop, and progress can begin to be made. So that's how I deal with it.
Well, in nursing school, of course, I was taught one of the most important things that you can do is try to have empathy for other people. Try to put yourself in their shoes. So there are people that I disagree with, right, on political issues that I'm good friends with anyway. That isn't a precursor for friendship. Of course, try to see things from their point of view. And maybe sometimes you change your mind, or you can change theirs. If you can't do either one, you still work together as best as you can, and with an amicable approach to things.
This is Dr. Nagy. I try to help people focus on the places where they have common ground, where they have a common interest, and help them move forward on that issue. One of the things that we did over the last 2 years is we created a party for healthcare providers in the state, and we called it the White Coat Party because so the red party, blue party were the White Coat Party, and we're focused on fixing healthcare. And we're able to draw on the 5% of people in our state who work in healthcare, and if they have a significant other, that's 10%. If they have one friend who cares about healthcare, that's 20%. If only half the people show up to vote in an election cycle, that's 40% of the electorate. And then I got registered as a lobbyist for the White Coat Party in Carson City, and started talking to all the legislators, talking about, these are issues that appeal to everybody in our state. Healthcare affects everyone, and improving the quality of care and reducing the cost are important to everybody here. And I think that's the best way, is you find things that everybody can agree on and emphasize those.
Thank you, John.
Nathan Atkins, representing the Veterans Association. John, I'll come to you, right? If I understood correctly, I saw that you advocate for cutting federal spending to lower cost of living. Did I get that right from your website?
Yeah, that's right.
So with that being said, what is one federal big government program currently operating in Southern Nevada that you would cut day one to help stabilize the local economy?
Well, so federal programs are nationwide, right? As far as being specific to Nevada, that wouldn't be my aim. It would be our top budget expenditures, unfortunately, are entitlement programs that a lot of people are basically addicted to. Medicare, Social Security, right? Those are the top two budget drivers. They sound nice, but I actually think that people, especially today, they're learning more and more with the advent of the internet, right? So I think they're becoming better stewards of their own financial destiny. I don't think young people especially, need to have something like Social Security that is controlled by the government, because they can invest their own money and get a better return. And even the government itself has said Social Security is not meant to be your retirement. You're supposed to come up with your own retirement. What it is insurance against old age, really. So I think that everyone who's paid into Social Security should receive the benefits that have been promised to them. And we need to wean the country off of it and encourage people to do what they already know how to do, which is prepare for their own financial freedom and be the masters of their own destiny.
Answer if you like. Question? Yeah. So real simple, what's the one federal government program currently operating here in Southern Nevada that you would cut day one to stabilize our local economy?
I wouldn't cut, but I would modify the Bureau of Primary Health Care. Bureau of Primary Health Care is an agency under DHHS, which we operated a federally qualified health center, and the federally qualified health centers were entities that you get a grant in order to operate a clinic in an underserved area. And the idea is that the government helps provide care to people who need it, who can't afford good health care. The people within the government who were giving us the grant asked for bribes in order to continue to operate the entity. And we refused. And then they came up with all kinds of very, very nasty threats and accused us of false crimes. And we had to, I had to go to criminal attorneys. Ultimately, I went to the FBI. So there's racketeering going on in every state in the country. And this goes all the way back up to Washington. And you need to undo this. And 2 weeks later, they dropped all charges because they didn't want me in front of a federal judge testifying about the fraud. I would like to go after entities like that within the government that are, in particular this one, that have fraud built into the system and are extracting bribes for the people within the government from the taxpayer dollars. I found that detestable, and I would very much like to see that wrong righted.
I'm not going to answer the question. That there's nothing that I would cut.
Bill Carnes, Nevada Veterans Association. Where do you stand on the 17th Amendment and why? We'll start with you, Terrill.
Can you refresh my memory on the 17th Amendment?
The 17th Amendment established that the U.S. Senate would no longer be comprised of members appointed by the state governments, and instead they'd be popularly elected like members of the House.
I agree. I think the people have a voice, and we should be able to utilize that voice when it comes to positions in the government and any and all of it. Does that answer your question?
No, it did not. Can you clarify what's your position on the 17th Amendment? Do you support it, or would you support repealing it?
I support the 17th Amendment.
John?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I support repealing it because you talked earlier about our republic and where that's located in the Constitution. And so there's a difference between kinds of government, right? We're supposed to be a republic, but often I hear people talk about our democracy. Well, I believe in people having certain civil rights, but I believe in a Republican form of government over a direct democracy. And I think that the founding fathers were correct in establishing it the way it was originally, right? So when the states choose their senators, like it originally was, the legislatures, then I think that the senators have more of a responsibility directly to their home states rather than how we're doing it now. And I think that you get a higher quality of senators as well, even though the people do need to have a direct voice, right, in choosing, and their voice is in choosing the lower branch of government, right?
So, as I recall, the 17th Amendment was put into effect around the same time as the 16th Amendment, and the effect of the two was to consolidate power in into corporations. The 17th Amendment, as I recall, enables changed things with the way that we elect senators. It used to be that senators were chosen from the state assemblies and the state senate, and you had to serve a certain amount of time and be elected by the people within those houses to be chosen as a representative. And what the 17th Amendment did is that it enabled the direct election of senators by the populace. And the thing that changes in that is that when you have a senator who is elected from among the assembly members or the leadership in the state, they understand what the issues in the state are. They've been arguing about it for a while. They're a respected leader from the people who have already been chosen to lead amongst the people in the state. And when you elect somebody directly by the people and populace, advertising dollars and from large corporations can start to play an effect, and central entities can have a much bigger influence than local politics can. So I would be in favor of pulling back on that. I've been thinking about that for a long time, actually.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics. In the private sector, when an employer contributes to a retirement account, like 401ks, those funds are protected and can't be diverted for other uses. Why doesn't Social Security operate under the same principle while contributions are locked away and untouchable, And what specific steps would you take to ensure those funds are truly protected? Dr. Nagy.
Could you ask the question one more time, please?
In the private sector, you can't touch a 401k. Once it's put in there, the money's locked, can't be diverted for anything else. With Social Security, why doesn't Social Security operate under the same principle where contributions are locked away and untouchable? And what specific steps would you take to ensure these funds are truly protected?
I would be in favor of protecting Social Security and preventing it from being raided by Congress. Really, all of the entitlement programs that we have allocated money for initially, I don't think it's appropriate for Congress to pass laws to raid those funds for other purposes. They were set aside for that purpose. That's what they're there for, and it kind of cheats the people who've been paying their Social Security taxes in for 50 years or whatever, and then they finally need it, and now the money's been diverted and sent away for something else. They're being told now that we don't have money for you. I think that's dishonest and unfair, and I think that those people should be kept whole for sure.
What a good question that is. And as a recently retired myself, I've come to the opinion that the government actually sucks at almost everything it does. And this is proof of that, right? From the beginning, Social Security was not set up to be a system in which you paid money into an account with your name on it. Not like that. No, immediately it started paying out that money to people who are retired, and that's how it has always operated, right? So one of the problems why it's causing serious financial strain on our budget is because we're getting fewer people paying into it, and people are living longer, which I like. I intend to live. I'm very, very healthy. My diet and lifestyle regimen are very strict, and I enjoy it, right? But see, I think I'll easily live to be 100, for example. But see, people who do that, they're going to be drawing a lot more Social Security than what was calculated, right? So as we live longer and people are having fewer children, there's fewer people paying in. And the government is already pretty bad at managing money, right? Our national debt, which I keep talking about, proves me correct on that. So in order to protect it, they should have set it up the right way to begin with, that you are contributing to an account with your name on it. So that's why I advocate. So we've all become aware of what they're doing. We're all smarter at managing our own money than the government is at planning a retirement for us. And that's why I think we should be obligated to pay out all the promises that people have paid into Social Security and wean the country off of that system in favor of people in being in charge of their own destinies.
It's a good question. I don't know why it's so poorly managed. As the gentleman has said, the government is not good at managing money. It's good at spending money. Something that I would do is increase the income amount so that people that make $150,000 or more contribute into Social Security. I think the fund needs to be funded to continue to pay out to those retirees and reduce the pressure of the government and reduce that threat of Social Security going away or not being provided to everyone who's paid into it so far.
Devin Douglas, Veterans in Politics. So the current ongoing U.S. military actions against Iran have directly impacted Southern Nevada through operations at Nellis, Creech Air Force Base, our Nevada National Guard deployments, rising energy costs affecting families and businesses in CD3, which I live. What is your position on the continued U.S. involvement in the conflict, and what steps would you take in Congress to protect American service members, control costs to taxpayers, and overall prevent further escalation as a full-blown war? We can start with
Well, for me, I don't support the conflict. My reason for that is because it didn't go through the proper channels. To be involved in this level of conflict, it requires congressional approval. I don't care if you call it an operation or not. This amount of activity is a war. I understand the element of surprise, but to declare war does not mean I'm going to tell you I'm going to drop a bomb on your Air Force base at noon tomorrow. So there's still an element of surprise. And international law dictates that we do need to make it clear that we are in a conflict, we are at a war. Because if Russia decided to drop a bomb on us tomorrow, we would be very upset that they didn't let us know that we're at war with them. So it goes to the golden rule: treat people the way you want to be treated. So I would reduce, or I would do everything I could to hold the executive accountable, and reduce the conflict, end the conflict, and hopefully things will stabilize back after that happened.
Right. And so I appreciate what Terrill said. I agree that it's clearly stated in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, what Congress's powers are, and they're the ones that have the power to decide these kinds of actions, right? And so what I would do is if I would introduce a war powers resolution. I think what we should have done to prevent this in the first place, instead of saying we need to strike Iran, otherwise I speculate that we're going to be probably destroyed. I guess that's what the thinking is. What I would have done is gone to the 5 top nuclear powers, right, and called them together for a meeting and set up a delegation and said, okay, look, Iran wants cheap nuclear energy. Israel wants security. We want that too. So we don't want them to develop a nuclear bomb. There's a big gap there. My uncle was actually a metallurgical engineer and atomic scientist, right? And so I've actually talked with him about this issue. He's a little old now, but in fact, he helped consult on the Chernobyl. You remember that incident years ago. So I would go to Russia, China, France, the UK, and ourselves, and create a commission and to tell Iran, look, you can have nuclear energy, but you can't develop a bomb. And there must be security guarantees for people throughout the world and in the region. That's what
Could you repeat the question one more time so I make sure I'm answering exactly what you asked?
Essentially, with the current conflict going on in Iran, what is your position on the continued U.S. involvement in the conflict, and what steps would you take in Congress to protect American service members, control costs to taxpayers, and prevent further escalation?
So the fact that we're over there now, the President of the United States has access to the best intelligence in the world. He has people on both sides of this issue advising him in depth and detail, spent their entire lives studying this issue. We elected that person into that office, and we have to have some faith that he's going to act in the best interest of the American people with the information that he has. The reason that we're over there in the conflict right now, a lot of people argue that Israel pushed us into the conflict, and certainly they benefit. That's why they have their fighter jets and their missiles going. And a lot of people argue that people of Iran are the reason that we're over there. We're liberating people who've been under oppression for 47 years, and they do benefit also. And people argue that the purpose of the war, we were pushed into it by the people who profit on wars and the banks and the munitions manufacturers and the oil barons. But those are not the primary reason. I believe that we're in this conflict. I believe the primary reason in this conflict and that American lives are being put at stake is because the conflict with the Chinese. We're closing the energy resource of the Chinese, and Chinese are actively killing Americans with the fentanyl precursors that they ship into our country. More Americans are dead now than have died in all of the wars since the Revolutionary War due to fentanyl overdoses. They have the capacity to close down that manufacturing. They've chosen not to. They have 2 to 3 times our population. They have our entire manufacturing base, and they are racing like crazy to overtake us in the technology. It's going to take the efforts of every man, woman, and child in this country if we're going to maintain an America that is worth preserving, including the children and grandchildren of those people who are fighting this war right now.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. Again, mine's going to be short and sweet. Before, I want to say thank you for serving in the Marine Corps Semper Fi. And you being a nurse, my mom was, and thank you, Dr. Nagy. When the pressure comes from leadership, of which we're seeing today, or from donors or politics, what will you protect first?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
When the pressure comes from leadership or your donors or politics, what will you protect first?
I think a lot of our representatives have forgotten that they work for the people. So the people that elect me into this position are who I'm going to protect. Taking their voice to DC is what I'm raising my hand saying that I want to do. So there's no amount of pressure that is going to come from a donor or an executive that's going to sway me from the people that I am saying I want to represent. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I know it seems simple, but sometimes it can be hard, because of what we're seeing today, in
Right.
my opinion, with what's going on. And as long as the people, I'm going to shut up. I've got an opinion.
Thank you.
I think of one of my favorite members of Congress in my lifetime, Congressman Ron Paul. He's retired now. And he was a populist, right? Which he was definitely on the side of the people and people's rights as established by our founding documents. And so even though he did have donations to his political campaigns, it was clearly understood that donors aren't going to influence his vote. You donated to him because you already knew where he was going to vote on the issues. So our number one most important responsibility, like Terrill said, in Congress is to the people. Mm-hmm.
Like Terrill, I've self-funded the majority of the campaign. I haven't accepted any money from large political action committees. I've actually turned down a couple of offers because I don't want to be unduly influenced. I'm doing this. Again, I'm not running this race because I'm looking to enrich myself or it's some kind of prestigious thing. I want to fix healthcare in the country. I feel ashamed that it hasn't been fixed already. I feel like that fellow Luigi Mangione, who allegedly took somebody's life and threw his whole future away, did so because his elders hadn't solved the problem. And that's people like me who know what the problem is, who know how to fix it, didn't step up. And that makes me ashamed that if I don't step up, I'm going to leave the problem to be solved by my kids. And that's not appropriate.
Your turn, sir. Nathan Atkins, in support of Nevada Veterans Association, so specific to CD3, right? You've got a pretty high growth suburban area, right? And so the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but when the land is sold, percentage of the money gets allocated certain places. I'll give you this information. 85% Secretary of Interior, which is parks, trails, those type of things. 10% goes to our water, Southern Nevada Water District, and then 5% for education. If you are elected for your area, right, how would you effectively reallocate the funding so you'd have better support for local infrastructure for CD3? So ultimately, we're trying to increase growth in Nevada and increase resources here in our state. One of the things that we've been talking a great deal about, when I was in Washington, I brought this up a couple times, is that as Donald Trump is effectively eradicating the control of the cartels have over the Mexican government, a lot of things will be up for grabs and for renegotiation. One of those things will be the water rights that Mexico has to the Colorado River. As the rights to the Colorado River are up for renegotiation, perhaps we agree to put a desalination plant down in there that's run by people from Nevada, and we make money on it here on our state and provide that, or we float a bond out here. But ultimately, it provides more water that we need here in Nevada, and the water is one of the primary restrictors of development here. Obviously, and Congress will do everything we can to encourage the BLM to release lands for us so that we can increase our expansion. We're not as landlocked as we are. That should lower housing prices and make everything more affordable for the young people who are coming through. And because our economy runs so much on construction and development, I think that should help our economy a lot here too.
I feel like since Nevada has more land controlled and theoretically owned by the federal government than any other state by far, and since the federal government decided to just give the Panama Canal back to a foreign country where we had agreed that we would own and operate it, right? Then my opinion is the feds should just give us our own land. It's our land. It's not theirs. It's just supposed to be a free country. But in my opinion, states are supposed to enter the union on equal footing, right? We didn't enter on equal footing. I argue that in Nevada. So I want that land, and I don't think the feds should be able to profit on land that should be ours. And if it is ours, like it rightly should belong. By the way, my wife is full-blooded Native American. So she's got a deep cultural connection to this land. The land is very sacred to her and her people in that sense. And so she also doesn't like it that this government in Washington does this to Nevada more than any other state. If we had the land like we should have, then we would have a greater amount of revenue capable of being generated to address our local concerns. I like that Dr. Nagy mentioned our concerns about water. I believe in creating desalination plants for California, especially in the vicinities of San Diego and LA. Why are they drawing water from the Colorado? We're a landlocked desert, and their front porch is the Pacific Ocean. We get the least amount of allocation out of all the states from the water treaty. And so I want desalination plants to reduce that from California's demand and our allocation to be increased. Otherwise, we cannot support growth in Southern Nevada.
So I'm going to do a real quick interjection here. So I think there's some confusion in my question. So the Public Land Management Act means the land's already been given. It's been released from the federal government, and we're selling it. What the question is asking is, how do we more effectively use it for local infrastructure, which is why I gave you the breakdown of when it's sold. 85% is controlled by the Secretary of Interior. That's parks, trails, all those things that we all use. And then 10% goes to Southern Nevada Water District, 5% goes to education. So I'm going to let Terrill answer the question. And if the moderator will allow, give the two of you a chance to give a short, brief revamp, because this isn't about releasing the federal lands. This is about what happens after they're sold, because it looks like, 85% being controlled by the Secretary of Interior means our state's controlling 15% of the money. What would you do to make it more feasible for us to have more control over the money for our local infrastructure?
Terrill, you'll get 90 seconds. To let you all give you an additional 45 seconds to clarify.
Thank you. I think you have made the point that too much of it is being allocated to one specific pillar. So I think when it comes to education, when it comes to infrastructure, we lack in education. We're 48th in the nation. So we definitely need to allocate more money towards our education. When these lands are being sold, we need to consider expanding education facilities on these lands as well. That increases property value, that makes areas more desirable, that will eventually lead to growth. So we need to take a really good look at why we're allocating so much to that specific I'm sorry, what was it?
Secretary of Interior,
right.
Parks, trails,
right. And we love our trails here. Absolutely. A lot of people move here for those things, and maintaining them is very important. And being, we have a lot of Native people here. I know that those lands are sacred. So they need to be respected. But again, as a growing population, a growing state, we need to reallocate to some of those other areas that we struggle in.
It does seem like it is a disproportionate amount to some areas of the appropriations than others. And so, whereas I feel like that's our land anyway, and you rightly point out that it's already been released, it should have been ours to begin with. It shouldn't have ever been an issue like that. It should have been ours locally to deal with to begin with. But now that the act that we've already had the land released, the land that has been released, then I think that we need to have a local, the county commission especially, can look at where our needs are greatest, right, locally. Maybe the state would be interested in that, but I prefer to do things more at the local level because I think the people in the localities would have a better knowledge of what to do with the resources. Mm-hmm.
I believe the state's looking into a lawsuit with the federal government to determine whether or not when the state was originally incorporated, we we were in fact shortchanged in comparison to the other states in terms of our ownership of that land. So I believe that suit is, if not already being in process, is being planned. In terms of it's a fight over money ultimately, and that's a lot of what the fight in Congress is about: is who gets what money from the federal government. And we certainly have a better claim than the other states to the money that's raised from the sale of lands within our own state. That's undeniable, but it's a fight, and so the fight has to happen wherein we either utilize a moral high ground that we have from that, which should be obvious to everyone who sees it, or we offer something of value. And when we get back around, I'll talk about what we can create a value that the country needs that secures us in time of crisis that everybody will jump on board with, that gets us all money.
Gentlemen, straightforward. What is the proper role of government according to the U.S. Constitution, and where is it outlined?
Wow, I am not a constitutional scholar, so I'll have to envy my legal colleagues for the years they spent studying this one. But the intent to purpose of government is a question I talked a lot about when we were kids and we were in high school. And you looked at the back of a Scholastics magazine. There was always a guy rising up out of the muck with the machine gun, and he was recruiting you into the armed forces. And you always wondered, they always said, well, we need all these folks, we need all these armed services to protect the American interest. But you never really heard anybody define, well, what is the American interest? What does that mean? And so over the years, I've given that a lot of thought, and I've come down to two things that the American. And I had a conversation, interestingly, with somebody from USAID before I knew what that was. It came down to, what is the American interest? And the first piece of the American interest is protection of American health and property. When that's in danger, we go out and we protect that. And it seems like the second purpose of the American interest is the acquisition of control of foreign resources, delivery of that control into U.S. control. And when we see something that our country needs, we take action to do what's necessary to turn that American control. And we have not just the armed forces, but the commercial services and trade services do a lot, and the Federal Reserve and Treasury Department do a lot to help America obtain control of those assets.
My opinion on your question is found in the preamble of the Constitution, that it is to promote ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare. I would also like to answer the question by pointing out that in the Declaration of Independence, it says that to secure, some of our rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? And to ensure these rights, governments are established among men.
Yes, so I agree. It is the to protect and preserve the right of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I'm not entirely sure where it is outlined in the Constitution or anything like that. Again, I'm not a scholar either in the Constitution. But yeah, it is the preservation of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that is, it is accomplished by a government represented of the people, by the people.
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics. So here's my question. I have two son-in-laws, both former Marines. VA healthcare. He goes to the VA. He has a doctor that's got one foot in the grave and is, basically biding his time. He gets a good young doctor that's zealous, wants to help fix the problems. She leaves and goes on to another job. What are you going to do to help retain skilled physicians due to pay gaps, burnout, and bureaucracy for the VA?
So one of the things that happens at the VA that assists with this to some degree is that there is a 30-day timeline in which veterans have to access alternative care if the delays are too long. So if they can't get care taken care of at the VA, they have access to go earlier. It's conceivable that we could broaden that if they're not happy with the personnel who are taking care of them and they're not dealing with the problems fast enough. Even after they've seen someone, that they still have that option to go see someone outside of the healthcare system. As we bring down healthcare costs in the country, that should be something that becomes more affordable for the Veterans Administration.
This is a very important issue to me because I'm an Army brat. My father fought in Vietnam. My father-in-law, full-blooded Native American, fought in World War II, in fact. And so, and my brother was an Army doctor. So healthcare for the military is very important to me and for veterans. I understand that we have more than 700 primary care facilities and probably a few thousand outpatient care centers for our veterans. And I also want to point out that it used to be we had a compulsory draft, right? Everyone who served was drafted. There is a great economist named Milton Friedman who argued a few generations ago that we needed to change that, and it would be better. We would have better military and better services for our military if we went to a market-based system. And there was a lot of opposition, but in the end, his lobbying and people who supported him prevailed. So I think there's an economic answer to this issue. I think that we need to see what the problem is, why we don't have adequate health care taking place in some cases. My dad is pleased with the health care he's receiving. He's in his mid-80s. But I understand also that not all people are in that kind of a position and can say that. Some of them are having problems. Those complaints need to be addressed, and we need to create incentives to keep the best doctors, nurses, and medical technicians incentivized to staying in the military and making a career out of it. Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. As a Marine Corps veteran and 80% compensated VA rating, I can speak firsthand to the fact that the VA here is not to the level that it needs to be. I asked for magnesium supplements, and I'm getting the 5th degree on why I shouldn't be taking magnesium for, back pain. Anyways, we like to avoid the topic, and you get what you pay for. We need to allocate more money to the VA to pay for better doctors so that we can retain better doctors. It's been about 3 years, and I've gone through 5 different primary care doctors. So we need to, pay attention to where the money is going, and we need to invest in things like health and quality of life for people who are sacrificing life and limb for this nation. They're too often forgotten, and we need to not mince words. We need to allocate money for a quality level of care, and with that, we need to extend the access to care. The little satellite offices that they have, a lot of them don't offer emergency room services, and that to me is unacceptable. I live Southwest, District 3. Having to drive all the way up north is about a 45-minute drive. If I've been bit by a dog or broke my arm, that's a long haul. So yes, does that answer your question?
Devin Douglas, Veterans in Politics. So parts of CD3, including neighborhoods in Henderson, Spring Valley, and Enterprise, where I live over in Southern Highlands area, have been dealing with rising concerns over property crime, retail theft, car break-ins, public disorder that affect daily life for residents and local businesses. What targeted federal actions would you champion to make the residents of CD3 feel more safe? We can start in the middle and go left.
Well, federally, I don't know how much power the federal government has to police the states themselves. I think you would have to rise to a very serious emergency for that, to be sending in federal people to deal with a local issue, right? We have local crime. The people elect a sheriff, right? And he's supposed to be the one that is in charge of policing that. It seems like crime has been on a downward trend in general in Clark County over Lombardo's term and now in Kevin McMahill's. And where that's not happening, we need to bring it up with the sheriff to address that. I like the fact that the people elect their sheriffs rather than, as opposed to having chiefs of police, because I think there's more pressure locally on the local law enforcement officers. I think that's where that answer is best found, the local level rather than the federal. Mm-hmm.
So I have to agree, it's more of a local level thing, but I think it ultimately falls into the cost of everything. When people are not able to afford food for their family. They're more inclined to take that food, steal that food. And so we need to address that aspect. People need to be making more money. People need to be able to afford the amenities of life, and again, their pursuit of happiness. In addition to that, I'd partner with local law enforcement to figure out how we can help expand their coverage. I know the current sheriff has implemented some drones around the city to, they can get to emergencies faster than the police are able to in most cases. So figuring out a way to expand coverage like that. I know in Southern Highlands, it's an area that is upper class, for lack of better words. So that means that there are probably, because there are less crimes, or there have been in the past, there are less presence of police in that area. So that makes it more vulnerable. So I'd partner with the local police department to make it a hard target for these petty crimes. And obviously, we would hold the people accountable that are committing these crimes. Maybe I'm not a huge advocate for, putting people in prison, but we do need to do something to deter. So, that's what I would do.
The work that's been done to reduce illegal immigration and secure the border, and with more visible law enforcement in communities, has resulted in a dramatic reduction in crime, and certainly fentanyl overdoses and the trade in narcotics. And as the money that goes to fund these criminal operations diminishes, there's a diminished amount of crime. That's one thing that's being done. To the culture of encouraging lawlessness has to change, and that's something that can be led with just leadership and really a discussion of sort of signaling that comes from Washington, but also at the local level. Things that are being done where they were trying to increase the dollar values in which criminals had to. They wanted to raise it to $1,200 instead of $600 when people were committed a felony for theft. There's no reason to encourage lawlessness, and laws that induce the encouragement of lawlessness need to be suppressed. That's something I would fight against in Washington. There's one other thing, but those two things will have to suffice right now.
Can you hand me that extra water?
I was trying to TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. Nevada relies heavily on tourism and small businesses, and a lot of things have changed recently. What are you going to do once you get into Congress to better all that for your constituents in CD3? Dr. Nagy?
Sorry, could you ask the question once more?
Tourism
Yeah.
is what affects Nevada.
Yep.
And what would you do to change? Because everything's changing right now. Everybody's hurting financially. As we all know, gas is going up. And I'm focusing on what's happening here. So when you go to D.C., what are you going to do to change it to where we can all have a better life? Not just the congressman who gets the tax dollars and things, but what will you do to focus on us?
So if we're successful in fixing healthcare costs, everybody has more money in their pocket. And when everybody has more money in their pocket, tourism goes up because people can enjoy themselves again because they feel richer. In terms of encouraging international tourism, one of the things that I've been discussing with people and trying to promote is the idea of a Marshall Plan for South America, where they're our closest neighbor, and encouraging the economy over there to build them up to some degree, as we did with Korea and with Germany and with Japan. As their economies rise, they have the economy to start to trade with us, and they can become the tourists that we're no longer getting from Europe and from China that are going to be unlikely to come for some time now. I think that so encouraging the economy, encouraging international policy to encourage tourism, and then what we can do to encourage fuel prices. I think if we can solve this Mideast crisis rapidly, that's the fastest way to reduce fuel prices for us.
I like what Dr. Nagy said about that. We do need to encourage international tourism. We get a lot of Asian tourists in general. In fact, I've got some friends that, you're a nurse, there's a lot of Asian nurses, right? At least in my hospital. And so a lot of them have friends and family that come and to Las Vegas specifically. And so I think we need to promote that and incentivize it. I also agree with what Dr. Nagy said regarding promoting proper health and good health care. And the better people feel, the more they like to go on vacations. I'm in good health myself personally because I take very good care of my diet and my lifestyle regimen. And so I enjoy going on trips with my wife, right? I think we also need to bring the cost of fuel down so that people can afford to travel better, right? And the way to do that, of course, is hopefully this war that's going on in the Middle East will end very soon. And I like promoting domestic oil production. That helps a lot. If I were in the state legislature, I would sponsor a bill to repeal the resort fee that hotels and casinos have to pay. I think that's actually punitive. I think it's counterintuitive to what our interests are.
So for me, it goes back to affordability. Back in the day, we used to drive. We used to do road trips across country. Gas is too high for that. So we're in a position where we cannot rely on tourism. So that means we need to diversify our economy. How do we do that? We bring back more of those federal funds to our state, and we expand on things like education. We expand on things like, medicine. We need, down in Laughlin, the clinic they had, they're closing. So why don't we have a state-of-the-art facility there with traveling doctors coming and teaching students? I did the cancer walk down there actually, and one of the participants, she's graduating and she's like, I'm not staying in Vegas. I'm going to Arizona to be a nurse. Sorry. And so what we need to do is we need to become more of a place to, be educated, be a resource when it comes to, the natural resources that we have, that our nation, lithium, you name it, we have it. Our nation depends on those things. Why aren't we mining them and using them for, to our advantage? So we need to diversify our economy. That's what I would do if I win.
Nathan Atkins, Veteran Association. Just
real quick, we're going to go now to a 60-second answer so we can try to run through a few more questions from the panel.
So my question is around healthcare. When I came here in 2013, most of the people I talked to told me their healthcare was the airport because there are no specialists here. There's no one to see, right? Today, we are doing significantly better, but we're not where we need to be. I am in the VA system. Whenever my brothers and sisters need specialty care, they're being sent to Arizona, they're being sent to Utah, they're being sent to California, right? What would you do if you went to Congress to try to ensure that our healthcare system can be attractive enough, funded enough, incentivized enough, whatever needs to be done so that we can get more specialists here in Nevada and we can start to get our healthcare here at home instead of constantly having to leave, as well as getting research universities here and getting things here that make it easier, right? We'll start with you.
So that basically just goes back to what I was talking about. We have the land, we have the resources, we just don't have the people. We don't have enough opportunities for people to go to school and attain their license. We don't offer doctors that are coming from other states a reasonable amount of time before they can get their license to actually start practicing here. And we don't have enough opportunities for people to do their residency. And we need to change that. And how do we change that? Again, it's funding. We have the land, so we need to utilize that land to build these medical facilities that are attractive. We need to reduce the time it takes for a doctor moving from another state to get their license so they can practice. Those are the things that I think are imperative to expanding our healthcare and expanding the the scope of who is coming here and practicing, and that extends to people from other countries, like from the UK and so on and so forth.
Sure, we're making a lot of progress, right? I went to school at the community college, right? That's where I went to the LPN program, like I said earlier. And they have grown quite a bit. Kirk Kerkorian's local medical school, I think that in essence is only about 10 years old. So we're making progress there. But like you point out, there are still places where we need to improve. So my opinion is that when we're talking specifically about veterans that are being referred to out-of-state veterans facilities for specialty care, my opinion is it's better. And I would support in Congress allocating funds to allow them to see a local specialist in the private sector that would meet their needs without them having to travel out of state.
So this wasn't VA specific, but here is the challenge, right? VA sends them out of state because there are no local specialists here to provide them to, because we have community care here for VA, and you have the option to take community care, but there aren't the specialists here. Like an example, and urology, in my opinion, is not a big specialty, but it was a 6-month wait to get a urology appointment at the VA, and there was no community care resource to be given here within Nevada, whether they structured a relationship or not. So I'm talking specifically about the Valley as a whole, not just the VA system.
Right. Okay, so I think we're growing, and I think, like Terrill pointed out, we are trying to solve those problems, and in order to do that, I think that the market responds to the demands that are put upon it. We're growing here, and therefore, more hospitals are being created, and more healthcare, other kinds of healthcare facilities as well, and more specialists. I've known some urologists, and I know that they're busy. All right.
It's Dr. Nagy. I was president of the Board of Medical Examiners here. I was on that board for 8 years. I focused a lot on trying to improve the quality of healthcare here. We do have very good doctors here, but the institutions in which they have to operate, the hospitals and the insurance companies, the financial motivations are such that they crush the incentives that allow them doctors to advocate for the best interest of their patients many times. The reimbursement rates for physicians here in Nevada are among the lowest in the country. The malpractice rates are rising, and that's going to drive more doctors out of the state. It's hard to recruit people to come here, both due to the quality of the healthcare and the schools that we have out here. The degree to which the insurance companies control and dictate care is very frustrating for the people who work in the healthcare system. I tell lay people oftentimes that it's when you're standing it's like standing at the edge of a pool and you see somebody drowning in front of you, and you know what to do to help that person. You reach your hand out to pull them out of the water, and the hospital, the insurance company grabs your arm by the wrist and holds it behind your back, and I have to stand there and just watch them drown. And you do that day after day, week after week, month after month, and it breaks people. It's the structure of the institutions around us, and that's what I'm going to Congress to try and fix.
We all know that the federal government is the worst and least financially responsible organization in the history of mankind. Drunken sailors know when to stop spending money sooner than the federal government does, because the drunken sailors run out of money. The federal government just gets a hold of the Federal Reserve and has them create more with a few keystrokes. With that being said, the way that the federal budget is supposed to be created is that there are 12 appropriation bills in each House of Congress, one for each committee, therefore allowing each member of each of the committee to have a say in that appropriations bill. The last time that the federal budget was put together via 12 appropriation bills through both houses of Congress was in 1997. What they've been doing is passing an omnibus bill that a small group puts together rather than an appropriations bill. They seem to believe that that saves time so that they could focus on other areas. However, the House just passed the 12 appropriation bills earlier this year in 2026 for the first time, yet the Senate moved it into an omnibus bill. Do you support the 12 appropriations bill approach or the omnibus bill approach? You have 60 seconds. We'll start with you, Doctor.
I'm in favor of the bill the way the founders intended it, the 12 appropriations bills. I've been thinking a lot about, why is it that it's so difficult for Congress to pass a bill, and it's got to do, I think, a lot with the revolving door that congressmen have when they leave Congress. They get to go work as a lobbyist for some gigantic firm, and then they have big salaries, or they get some other form of payment or payout, or they get a huge campaign donation that supports what they're doing. And ultimately, what's happening is these giant corporations are bribing the congressmen to move in one direction or another through one fashion or other. And I thought, for the cost of one Somali Learning Center in Minnesota, we'd be able to fund a congressman completely with a bonus if they balanced the budget. So I think the amount of money that you could provide to congressmen would be more than any individual company could spend on trying to bribe all 435 congressmen and the representatives and the other extra 100 in the Senate. And I think that should be explored.
Yeah, I prefer a standard appropriations bill rather than the way they've been doing it for a long time. Back in those days, there were about 4 years where the budget was balanced. The late 90s, I think 97, 98, 99, 2000, or 98, 99, 2001. So it appears like things were being done better at that short period of time. So I prefer to do it the way they were doing things back then. I agree with everything you said in your intro to the question that I think the federal government is a terrible manager of money and shouldn't be trusted by the people. And so I think that we should have different kinds of people going into Congress than we've had in the past, because it's not going to get fixed otherwise. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. We need to have the 12 appropriation. We need a long-term budget because with these short-term things that are happening, we're seeing a lot of federal arms being affected. They're only able to use a portion of their total budget because they don't really know how much they're going to have come the next vote. So we absolutely need a actual budget. I think to incentivize, members of Congress to actually do their job and get a budget out, hit them in their pockets. Maybe they shouldn't be getting paid until the budget is produced. Maybe they shouldn't be going on recess until the budget is produced. I think that everyone here at this table has to deal with a budget. We don't get to decide, well, I'm just not going to pay my energy bill this month because I want to go skiing. Our lights are going to be turned off. So it's something that needs to be taken serious. And right now, our members are not doing that.
Water skiing or snow skiing?
Sue Christensen, Veterans in Politics. We'll start with Terrill. Will you commit to protecting veterans' funding from being used for special interests?
That's an easy one. Absolutely. There are too many people in our government now that have never served. They don't understand what it means to, earn the benefits that a lot of veterans have. Just recently, they're trying to say if we could medicate you for your disability, then we're going to cut your compensation. That's not something that a veteran would have ever even mentioned or thought to say, or let alone try to implement. So yes, absolutely, I would advocate and die on the Hill to ensure the veterans' funding is not ever used for any special interests that don't help veterans.
I think that's an easy answer to your question. And so I agree that money should be used for how it's appropriated and not for special interests. Mm-hmm.
I would have to agree with my colleague that the money should be used as it's allocated and should not be diverted away to fund other branches or other activities.
Devin Douglas, Veterans in Politics. We'll start here and go to the right. Obviously, living in Las Vegas, tax on tips was a huge, talking point and policy here for our hospitality workers. In short, do you support completely, fully eliminating federal taxes on all tips with no caps or expiration? And if not, what would your approach be to deliver more relief for the workers of CD3?
So I think if we paid them better, we wouldn't have to incentivize no tax on tips. A lot of these service workers, they make $3 to $5 an hour because they're expected to get tips. I think that we should remove the expectation of tips and pay our workers a fair wage. However, in our current economy, I would support a no tax on tips. I think it's a great idea. I think that it needs to not be capped, and the same thing with overtime. It kind of is just like, dangling the candy in their face and keeping it just out of reach. So there should be no cap if we're going to do something like that.
I'm pretty sure that in Nevada we're different than in some other states. That we have a recent law, I think, that has said that people who receive tips now make standard minimum wage as well. And so my opinion is if they're making standard minimum wage, whereas before they were making a fraction of that, and they're making the same amount that they were making in tips before. I mean, it sounds nice to not tax tips, but people in Utah, that's not the case for them. So their tip earners are making substantially less. I think taxation should be fair is my whole point, especially from the federal level. And I don't think that was considered, that some states have different laws related to taxing to minimum wage laws for their workers, right? They have different minimum wage laws, and eliminating a tax on tips would disproportionately affect people in different states. I actually want to end all income taxes like the founders set it up to begin with. Right. That's what I think the direction we should go in is.
I'm very surprised that the representative that we have currently voted against the no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. 25% of the people in our district make their living on tips. 25% make their are dependent on Social Security, and over 25% have the capacity to work for overtime. I don't think the vote that was cast represented the people of our district, and I would very much have supported that no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. In terms of taxation in general, I do agree with Mr. Kamerath that the income tax structure that we have now is, and really just the concentration of wealth within the government, is destructive to our country. It encourages corruption and graft. And to the extent that we can reduce the power of the federal government and encourage the power in the states is a benefit to our country and our sovereignty.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. In 2024, I met with Congresswoman Lee. She and I had coffee, and we were talking about a couple different things. One of the things that she had mentioned in our meeting had everything to do with grants that she herself was in charge of. And she said, TK, we have a lot of grant money in DC. So what is your opinion about those grants to help fund trade schools and everything here in Nevada for all, districts, I would say? Mr. Kamerath, I'll start with you first.
Well, funding trade schools from the federal level kind of goes against the way I feel the role of government is, right? The federal government's role is to protect our basic rights and provide for the common defense. I think in terms of local education, I think that's a local issue, right? So I think that the state of Nevada should be in charge of creating needed trade schools within it. I think the state knows best what it needs over what the federal government thinks it knows Nevada needs, right?
Well, I was just shocked that she said she was sitting on over like $100 million, and I was just taken back by that particular thing. So I thought, if it's there, what does a person do with that amount of money to benefit other people here in our state?
Could you repeat the question?
Susie Lee told me that she was in charge of a lot of money, grant money in Washington, D.C., that they were just having. So I'm thinking trade schools and all these other things, what we can do, because in my opinion, no tax on tips has not helped those that were in the service community, our waitresses, of what that was supposed to go, correct? I mean, they're saying that $25,000 cap. So what is your opinion if you're the congressman and you're in that role or however that is decided, would you allow grant money, federal grant money, to come here to help the constituents?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's what the representatives, a lot of what they're doing is they're fighting about the utilization of the tax dollars. And to the extent that we're there, we're going to fight for every dollar we can of that pile to come back to Las Vegas. We're also going to fight as much as we can to prevent any of our tax dollars from having to go to Washington. So if we get a bunch of tax exemptions for Nevada, that's a win for all of us, right? So, in terms of what we need via getting more students trained in the professions like plumbing and construction, and as opposed to pushing the kids into college to earn degrees that are going to saddle them with a bunch of debt that they're not going to be able to utilize, I think encouraging people to enter the trades is a worthwhile use of funding.
Yeah, I have to agree with the doctor. Trade schools are very important. I think that we need to expand, their reach here. We need to expand on opportunities here. And if we have the money and a grant, there's absolutely no reason why it's not being allocated to do something productive for our society. Again, a lot of our students that are getting degrees, they are, up to their eyes in debt, and they're not able to find a job. So, doing a trade, you can be an electrician, you can start your own business, and you can make millions of dollars. We absolutely need to expand trade schools. I think that is what's going to stimulate our economy. It's going to grow our state, and it is going to help more people than what we're currently doing with traditional education.
I agree with everything that you just said, in the same thing, because if it's sitting there, and that's when I was like in shock, that would help a lot of people, especially having come out of COVID. So thank you.
Thank you, candidates. The interview portion of this is done. However, we're going to give each of you 60 seconds to shore it up. Remind us who you are. Remind us why we should vote for you. And anything else you have to say, you have 60 seconds. Terrill, we'll start with you.
I just want to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity. It was great to find out about this organization, being a veteran. And, I think that we need to be more involved in our politics because there are so few representatives that are from the military. A lot of the things that affect the veterans go unseen and unanswered. No one cares. But again, my name is Terrill Robinson. I am running for Congress in District 3 because we don't have representation. We don't have in-touch leaders, and I aim to change that. Thank you.
I also thank you for inviting me to this, like I said in the beginning, because sometimes not being from a major political party, you don't get invited to participate in forums like this. So I very much am grateful. And I hope you endorse me and vote for me. If you don't, I somehow happen to win, I will still support the causes that I've heard that you believe in. I also want to say this. If you are happy with the direction the country is going in and has been going in for a very long time, then maybe we should stick with the Republicans and Democrats. Maybe they're the ones that are doing what's best in guiding this country. But if you would like to see something different and a fiscal responsibility and a constitutional republic kind of government, rather than moving away from that, right, which is what I think we're doing, then I ask you to choose me.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody here who's served in the military for your service. I very much appreciate that. My father was a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he just passed a couple of months ago. And at the funeral, the service members will come over and they'll bring a flag and they play taps, and it was that's the moment it got to me, right? It's when you're at the funeral trying to put on a brave face, and that you get a letter from the president thanking you for your service, and it comes, from signed by Donald Trump, and it's a very, very moving moment, and and it gives you a lot of appreciation for what everybody does and the work they're out there. I was when I was in Washington recently. I went to a program put on by a group called TAPS. It's a charity for the widows and orphans of fallen veterans in combat, and it was attended by all of the generals. I was sitting across from the head of Space Force, and the stories they were telling about the sacrifice that people had and the sacrifice the families are incredibly moving. And I just want to say I appreciate all of you for putting yourselves in harm's way and at risk like that, because it's that kind of courage, people who run towards danger, that define the American spirit and courage. Thank you.
As we close this interview series out, I would like to thank our sponsors, Mary Perry of Clark County District Court, Family Division Department P, as in Perry, Veterans in Politics International, Nevada Veterans Association, and our additional sponsor partners for their leadership, support, and dedication to veterans and the integrity of our non-judicial process. Thank you for your professionalism, respect, and participation.
Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.